Okay, let's look at how I decorated my advent calendar. The first thing I did was I laid down a coat of the acrylic primer because my first goal was I was going to use decoupage paper on the outside. But then I quickly changed my mind. I just didn't think that would be enough. This is such a cute little box that I felt like it needed a little bit more. I went ahead just to keep it cohesive and finished priming this with acrylic primer. I decided what I was going to do is I was going to use the front to look like either the front of a store or a house or maybe on the inside. Well, I have 3 different brick stencils, so I needed to kind of figure out which one I wanted to do. And I pulled off those little handles because when I lay the brick stencil down, I want to make sure that there's nothing in the way. Now, normally when you're using putting a brick stencil on, you don't typically have white in the background, so I'm going to put on a coat of brown, and I'm just using the brown acrylic paint by Pentart. So I'm just going to give it a 1 coat. I don't think it needs 2 because when I put the brick over, you're really not going to see if I missed a little smudge here or there. It'll add kind of like a little shadow. Now that it's all painted and it's dried, I'm going to use a little bit of painter's tape to block the underneath of this little hole where the handles go because I don't want any of the stone paste I'm going to use for the brick to go through into the advent calendar. So I'm just going to put a little piece of tape just to block the hole. Okay, so I asked my audience and they gave me their idea of what I should choose. I gave them 3 options and I've decided that I'm going to go with the big brick stencil. So I'm going to give my stencil a little spray with the pixie spray. This helps your stencil stay put when you're going to be using some stone paste or any kind of paste you're going to run through your stencil because you don't want your stencil to move. This is temporary repositional spray. So I'm giving it a nice push down just to make sure it's all on. Next, what I'm going to use is I'm going to be using the pentart stone paste. Typically, when you see bricks, they're not all the same color, especially the older ones. Some of the newer ones, yeah, they're all red, but the older ones, they have a lot of character. So what I'm doing here is I'm using 4 different colors of the pentart stone paste because when I run them through the stencil, I want them to appear aged, old, and like they were handmade back in the day. So I'm just taking my palette knife and I'm just spreading it through the stencil, and I'm trying to mix the colors a bit. But I also, I gotta take a little video for for real. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I'm going to run this through the stencil, and I just want to make sure that I get like a not perfect even coat because when was the last time you saw bricks that were perfect? So I'm just going to run this through even to the edge because once I lift this stencil, I can clean up the edge with my palette knife. So as you can see here, you can see all the different colors coming into play. And also, what I made sure to not do was I didn't want them all to be flat because sometimes you have where the mortar or the brick, it's just not perfect. So I wanted to make sure that I did not give the appearance of perfect brick. So watch as I finish this. Now I'm just going to go back and make sure I get the edges because I don't want to forget about the edges. And a tip is you always want to make sure that your stencil is going off so you don't have that definitive edge. One time I used the brick stencil on the edge and I forgot to include that there was the little edge of the stencil and I had a big frame around it and it didn't look good. And I tried to repair it and it didn't look good. So here we go. You can also see at the bottom there, see how it's all uneven, but that's going to look beautiful on the bricks. Now look at that. See how they look like they're real bricks and you have color fluctuation, and I just simply love it. Now, because I don't want to mess this up, I'm going to wait till these thoroughly dry before I add the brick to the right and the left side. If you notice the very top, you can see the stone paste there. What I do is I just simply take my palette knife and scrape it and get rid of the extra stone paste up there. So now that my stone paste is dry, I'm going to go ahead and put the stone paste on both the left and right side. I'm going to try to Line them up as straight as possible. I want at least the lines to be straight. It's okay if I overlap my bricks, but I definitely want to make sure that my bricks go off the side because I don't want that framed look from my stencil. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the other one. I'm going to take a little bit of each color. Now you can see that my terracotta is a little bit more dry than some of my other colors. What you can do if that happens is you can just add a little bit of water to it and stir it up and it'll be fine. All right, so I'm going to mix these together. I'm going to do it both on the left and the right. And you'll notice when I do remove the stencil from the other, both sides, they do look a little different from the middle. And that's okay for me, but if you don't like that, you can always bring your stone paste in a little bit to make the bricks so you don't have that definitive line of where I started and then when I added the second one. Okay, so my stone paste is dry and I like the look, I like the shape. However, when I put my red door on the front of it, the red door just doesn't look good on the stone, the colors that I chose. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a wash. I'm just putting equal parts of paint and water, and I'm going to put it on the bricks, and then I'm going to take a dry rag and just wipe it back because I need to tone down the brick. Still want some of the colors to come through, and I'm going to see what this looks like and then decide what I'm going to do after that. So as I'm putting this red window up here, it looks better, but it still doesn't look right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try it to go a little bit heavier, but before I do that, I need to make sure that I have a nice equal coat, even coat of my base layer before I move on. So I'm going to put this on and then, wipe it back so it's, equal, even. So let's see what this looks like. Let me put the little red door here. I just still don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe shade a little bit, use some dry brush technique on it and see how that looks. And then I'll decide if I like that. If I don't like it, I can always add more white. Well, I don't like it. So I'm adding more white. I want it to be more white. So at this point, it really didn't matter what color stone paste I used, but that's not always the case because if I didn't paint it white, then I would definitely like the different colored bricks. So I'm going to just do these white because it's going to make everything else pop. Okay, so now is the fun part. I get to decorate. So what I'm going to use is my heavy body gel. I love the heavy body gel because you put it on, see how thick it is? So when I put it on the back of the door, it's going to actually settle into the stone, the brick on the other side. So it'll kind of fill in the gaps. And once this is on, it's not going anywhere. I need to think about placement here because I know I want to add a couple steps so it looks like you're walking into the door. So I'm going to put it up just a tad and I want to make sure it's straight. And now I'm going to continue decorating. I think this little wreath will just look super cute on the door. So I'm going to use a little bit of the heavy body gel on this and stick it on. Next, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do Santa. I need to put him behind the window, so I'm going to have to cut part of him off. I don't want to put him right in the center, otherwise part of the window will cover his face. So he's going to be off-centered, so I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm just going to grab my scissors and cut him out. And then once he's cut out, I'm going to use the plastic window insert, so it looks like there's snow on the outside of the window. And this is all Tim Holtz. I do have just a few left of these kits. So I have the ones with the cardboard and it comes with the windows and Santa. And I have some of the other Tim Holtz, the papers that I use in the drawers. They're on my website, www.pbvintage.com. I only have a couple left, but if you're interested, that's where they are. So now what I'm going to use is my express glue. Because it has a fine tip and I don't want a lot of extra glue around, I'm just putting some dots here and there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue on that clear plastic, the one that looks like snow in the window. I'll glue that on. And then on top of that window, I'm going to glue Santa on. Then I will use the heavy body gel to make sure that this whole ensemble will sit on that brick wall. So now I'm going to put the window on, give it a firm press. make sure that I get all that heavy body gel into the lines of the bricks, because I definitely don't want Santa to come off. And just to make sure it's on there good, I'm going to go ahead and use some of the stone paste just to weigh it down and put some pressure on it. So next I'm going to add the stairs. So I'm just going to take some of the pieces that I might not use and turn them over and cut them to make them look like they're steps up to the doorway. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those down and then lay them on there ready for when I'm going to glue them on. Next I use the antique gel paste to stain those stairs, kind of give it like an aged look. And now I'm going to glue the rest of my decorations on. I have this little piece of holly from one of the Tim Holtz's collection, and I'll use the heavy body gel for the other pieces just to make sure it goes down and stays in with those bricks. Thought I'd balance the window off with a matching piece of holly on the window. Next I had to decide where I want to put the lamppost. Should I keep it on the left over by the door, or should I put it over on the right near the window? For me, I think it looks best on the left, so I'm going to use a heavy body gel and stick it on. The hard part was, should I put it down by the steps or should I put it up by the door? Well, because there wasn't enough room down by the steps, I went ahead and put it up near the door. So then I thought it needed a little something over that corner right there. So I dug through my little stash of the Tim Holtz pieces, and I picked out a piece of holly and then I glued that on. So for me, it's a little boring on the edges. So I grabbed my antique paste and a brush and I feathered in around the edges. I went all the way around the edge, and then I went in and I lightly dusted the bricks. And then once I finished the bricks, I went back around and I shadowed around the door frame, the window, the sign, and every other part that I thought needed some depth. I think it looked really good. And then once I framed and shadowed around each of the cardboard pieces, like the window and the door, I just think it brought it more to life. I love the way this is turning out. I'm so glad that I changed the brick to the white. Okay, so now it's time to paint all the little numbers. So what I did was I took some painter's tape, put it upside down, and I'm going to put my numbers on this painter's tape. So I don't have to worry about trying to hold each of these numbers and getting paint all over my fingers. So this works out really nice. So after I get all of my letters laid out, I'm going to mix up some pigment fix and then some of the gold metal pigment. And I just simply stir it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint each of these numbers one at a time and let them dry, and then we will stick them on the boxes. Next, I had to decide where I wanted to put my numbers. After I made my decision where I was going to put them, I used the express glue and I put them all on each of the drawers. Now, the mistake I made is the number placement I chose. When I go to close the right door, it catches a little, and the right door doesn't shut all the way because of the number. So if I were to do this again, I would make sure I put the numbers in the middle. I had the calendar letters up to 25, but there were only 24 boxes. So I chose to put the 25 numbers outside of the window, right on top of the holly, just to give it a little bit added decoration. I was struggling on what to put on the inside. I was going to put some stripe paper, but I thought it was just too much against all the drawers. So then I remembered to have these cute little deers, and they're soft enough, yet have some of the colors in the drawers. So I thought these would be perfect to just decoupage onto each side. Somehow I don't have the recording of me putting this decoupage paper on the top and painting the sides red, but I painted the sides red, added the core glue, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the maroon velvet powder on it. I just think it's going to elevate this and just put that final touch on here. So I'm just going to put a nice even coat of the decor tacky glue, let it tack up. You'll know it's tacky when it's clear. Then you just pour the velvet powder on, and I just push it around with my finger just so it gets to the glue. Then I'm going to come back with a brush and I'm going to stipple it down. I'm going to push it down into the tacky glue. And you always want to make sure you use the same color underneath or something that's very close, so that helps that color of the velvet powder shine. Simply shake off the excess, and you can actually put that right back into the velvet powder container and use for your next project. Okay, it is all done. Take a look and tell me what you think. Oh yes, I added snow paste. I forgot to put that in the video too. But so there's snow paste with the deer to finish off the edges. But look at the little drawers. Super cute. I know my son will cherish this for many years to come. I cannot wait to give it to him for Christmas.